about Adam, Dr. Craig? What do we do with Adam? Was he a real person, and why do you think that matters?
Well, there are basically four views concerning the historical Adam. The first view we could call the traditional view. This is the view that the church has held down through history, that Adam and Eve were a real historical couple who lived just a few thousand years ago, were created by God out of the dust of the earth, and were the ancestors of all of mankind. A second view would say that Adam and Eve were not the universal ancestors of mankind, though they were a real historical couple that lived relatively recently, a few thousand years ago. This view holds that what God did was select out of a wider human population outside the garden one specific couple to set his favor upon and then to bless their descendants. And so Adam and Eve are real historical people who are the descendants of a certain subclass of the human beings that have lived on this earth. A third view would say that Adam and Eve were real historical persons, but that they were extremely ancient. They lived perhaps hundreds of thousands of years ago, and they were, in fact, the universal common ancestors of all humankind. Every human being who has ever walked upon the face of the earth is descended from Adam and Eve. And this universal descent is purchased by pushing the location of Adam and Eve very, very far into the ancient past. And then finally, a fourth view we could call the mythical view, which would say that Adam and Eve were not historical persons, that this is simply a Hebrew myth about the creation of humanity and how every person is mortal, sinful, fallen, and in need of God's grace and forgiveness. Adam is every man, as it were, and therefore we shouldn't be looking for a time and place in history where he actually lived. Now, within those four broad categories, there are many different alternatives, but I think that pretty much sums up the broad survey of the options.